Hello everybody, how are you guys? Today we're going to do a quick album review of this very hot album on the charts, Death Race for Love by Juice WRLD. Now, Juice, the old Juicy, is on a roll. Let's put it that way. So he's a Chicago boy, and of course he came on the radar of a lot of us with Lucid Dreams in 2018. Which hit #2 on the Billboard charts. Then he got a recording contract, came out with the album Goodbye and Good Riddance. That peaked at #6 on the Billboard charts. Became gold album, of course, and the hits were Armed and Dangerous, Wasted, and Lean With Me. And here we are with the follow-up, Death Race for Love, which is just killing it. He's killing it. And he's really got an interesting sound. So all I'm going to do is go through each track and tell you what it's all about. It's not a musical composition review. We're just going to talk about what the song's about so you can get a better idea in case you're interested in the album. And if you're a rap fan, especially Chicago rappers, this will be of huge interest to you. So let's go through it track by track. We're just going to burn boom, boom, boom. So #1 is Empty. Now, Empty talks about the early days in Chicago where Juice was trying to, by the way, Jared is his real name, but Juice I like a lot better. Was starting out the business collecting empty bottles and cans just to get enough cash to be able to throw down some tracks. Even if you go to some of the cheapest recording studios, they're not going to let you just cruise in there like it's open house. Okay, you need to throw down some money to throw down some flows. And that's what he did to get going. It talks about the early days, and this is the album to do it on because now he's pretty much established himself as a force in the business. Maze is #2 on the album, which is a similar song because it talks about the intricacies of the music business itself, which many people say is no longer there. That the changes in technology, changes let's look at Lil Nas X. He didn't have a recording track, he had a #1 song. Now he has a recording track. So you look at Billie Eilish. Now she was in show business, I guess, but a lot of people call her an industry plant, but let's assume she wasn't. So how are acts discovered these days? It's a long ways from the 1970s, 1980s. So Maze is trying to negotiate those challenges. He Motions is the next song. Now this comes on the heels of a new Caltech study that said that scientists are now able to discover many, many more earthquakes than we were ever knowledgeable about before. So they used to say that, there's, for example, here in Southern California, they would say, there's earthquakes all of the time. Okay, you just don't feel them. They're minor earthquakes, but the machines, the sensors feel them. Now they've discovered 10 times that many. So at one point it was 1.8 million earthquakes per year around the globe. Again, we're talking minor quakes, 0 to 1 on the Richter, so you don't want to even feel them. Now the machines are so sensitive, they've discovered 10 times that. So that's what are called hemotions, and that's going on right there in that song. Demons featuring Brent Faiyaz's interlude. Well, this is an interlude. This is a break between Emotions and the next song after that called Fast. And in this case, Demons, he's talking about Demons tires. Now, if you're a fan of auto racing, you know that Demons tires are the best in the business. And he did a little stint with some guest shots. When you become a big star, they say, hey, do you want to race in the Long Beach Grand Prix, the Toyota Grand Prix? And he said, only if I can race on Demons tires, and that's what that interlude's all about. Real quick one there at 1:35. Fast talks about those races. So that's the next track. A lot of us drive to get to where we're going, but driving at 180 miles an hour is a whole different situation. Fast talks about the spin outs, the hugging the curbs, rubbing the tires against the wheel. And at one point, one of his Demons tires flew off the car and bounced into the crowd, but they loved it, man. They were riding the tire around up there, bouncing on it. Kids were playing on it. It's a great track. Hear Me Calling. Now this is interesting because it's a dream sequence where he dreams. It's kind of like lucid dreams in a sense, but hear me calling. He talks about a dream he has of his father calling him in the dream and trying to. And so it goes back to when he was a kid, and it's his father trying to tell him, you know, no matter what you do, you gotta make your own way in life, and I'm always here for you, even if I'm not physically there. You can hear me calling, and sometimes when you're a teenager, they're calling to say, "Hey, come on, get home." I don't care if you do, if they have to text you even. Get home, it's time for dinner. So that's hear me calling. Next is Big. Now, Big is it talks about. Well, it's a really interesting thing about the music business because they struggle, and then all of a sudden they hit it big. Now look at Lil Nas X. Lil Nas X was sleeping on his sister's couch, I think, for a while there, or his parents' couch, and then the next thing you know, he nailed it with Old Town Road, and now he's hanging with the big stars, hanging with Billy Ray, and probably with Miley. He's probably driving around town with Miley just because he knows Billy Ray. So, and the connections go from there. And so Big talks about hitting it big when you least expect it. Robbery is an interesting tune. It's, you know, again, he's from Chicago. He's a rapper. Led the real life. The guy's he's not a wankster, right? He's a player. He's been in the life, and so he's speaking from an authentic voice. Okay, he's not fake. And Robbery talks about when he was 12 years old and he snatched up some Funyuns from the 7-Eleven and took off running. Now, the guy made chase to the door, but he made it to the door with the Funyuns. And he and his buddies enjoyed those Funyuns all the way home, laughing and, you know. But of course, they talk about how that's not the life to lead. And he got into music after the Funyuns caper. And look where we are now. Flaws and Sins is the next track. Again, coming from an authentic voice, coming from the streets, coming from the real world of Chicago. Flaws and Sins talks about what you have to do to make your way through that environment. A lot of us don't know. It's a challenging environment, you know, that he grew up in. And so Flaws and Sins talks about that lifestyle and that struggle and trying to make something of yourself. Think about it. Think about it. You're trying to make something of yourself, but at the same time, you're trying to survive in a very dangerous environment. And so maybe you, like on the Funyuns caper, maybe you snatch up some Funyuns and light out the door, you know, whatever you have to do to get some Funyuns and get some nutrition. Feeling is a really great track talking about the Chicago. It's the history of it's when he was a kid, his father took him to a Chicago Blackhawks game. And there was a fight right up in front of him, right in the corner, and one guy got hit so hard he lost the feeling in his eyes. He lost the feeling in his eyes. He could see, he just couldn't feel his eyeballs, so he couldn't move them, right? So he just stared straight ahead like this. Okay, so they'd say, "Hey, over here is Ted," and he went like that. So it really, you know, kind of a dramatic song. Syphilis talks about he was asked early on to do a public service announcement for the prevention of syphilis, and he said, "Well, how much money are we talking about?" And they said, "Well, it's that money. It's a public service announcement." And he said, "Well, what if I make a track? Can I get you guys to jump in on background vocals on the track if I make a track about it?" And they said, "Sure, we'll jump in." And then they said, "Well, how much? How much will we get paid for background vocals?" And he said, "Well, you weren't going to pay me. This is just for the message." And they said, "All right." And they did it, and that's what that song's all about, with the background vocals from the people from the organization. Who Shot Cupid? Who Shot Cupid is a great title, right? Who Shot Cupid? Cupid's out there shooting everybody with arrows. Who shot Cupid? Maybe Cupid deserved it. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Here you have Cupid flying around, pulling arrows out of the quiver and shooting people with arrows. And it looks like Cupid finally got his. And the question the song asks is, well, who shot him? You know, and it goes through the Chicago PD case on the detectives that followed up that shooting, and what was a big story in Chicago at the time. It was barely a blip on most people's Facebook feeds, but how can, even a big story like that barely gets any play with all the fake news and all the nonsense coming across your Facebook and your Twitters. Ring Ring featuring Clever, a short tune, 2 minutes and 51 seconds. Ring Ring, again, it goes back to I would say the tween days, okay, 11, 12 years old. Ring Ring, where you ring the doorbell, you take off running. In this case, what they would do is ring the doorbell and jump on motorcycles and then ride motorcycles, jumping over houses, jumping over buildings, jumping over moms pushing babies in strollers. They had the motocross type bikes, and they're running around Chicago having a lot of fun. And those, when you're 12, that's what you do. Desire is another great tune. Desire talks about his love for a woman who did not return that love. We've all been there. If you have an object of your desire and they don't return it, they're not interested, and then you have to think, well, in that case, they're just not into you. What did he say in that book? She's just not into you. He's just not into you, or she's just not into you. So Desire talks about, well, what do you do? So it's a real. I won't reveal what he does, but it's really funny. It's a fun song. Out of My Way. Now listen, if you've ever been to Chicago, there's one thing you got to learn how to do, and that's lean on the horn. Lean on the horn, and you want to crack the window a little bit, even if it's a hot day and you have the AC running, because you're going to be yelling out the window, out my way, out my way, out my way, honk, honk, out my way. You're going to be doing that all day and all night in Chicago. I mean, I thought LA was bad till I went to Chicago, and it took us, I'm going to say 2.5 days to go a mile inside the loop. It was 2.5 days. At one point, we just had to set up camp, right? We just opened the doors and we put the tents outside the doors, and we just camped out because the traffic wasn't moving. We built a fire and roasted some hot dogs. All right, the next one is the Bee's Knees. Now, this talks about these knuckleheads that you come around, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Now, in this case, he's a rapper, he's a musician. And you got these people that they spout off facts and figures and knowledge like they know like a know-it-all. They think they're the bee's knees, okay? And they constantly say, well, that's not what you want to do. I mean, because that's not what they did back and that's not what Drake would do, right? And that's not what Jay-Z would do. Well, I'm not Drake. I mean, this is what Juice WRLD said. He's like, I'm not Drake, I'm not Jay-Z. Okay, I'm going to run the game the way I see it. I'm going to take my shots, right? So I don't care if you think you're the bee's knees. I think you're wrong, and here we go. Featuring Young Thug on the next song, On God. Now, this is a basketball song, and he played a little bit of high school ball, and he rode the bench at first his freshman year, sophomore year, but by junior year, he was getting on the court, and the coach would just point at him, and he'd say, on guard. He'd say, I want you on guard. And at the time, the coach wasn't real clear. He had a little bit of a speech impediment. And so it came off like, on God, like, I want you on God. And so he didn't know if he thought he was such a great player. He was like the god of basketball and Chicago high school basketball. But nonetheless, he got him on the court. He started making points, and he was a real competitor. 10 feet. Now this is a follow-up. This talks about the basketball world in Chicago high school basketball. And 10 feet is, of course, the regulation height of a basketball rim in the United States. In Europe, it's like 15 feet. So that's why, when Kobe went to Europe first, a lot of people don't know this. Kobe went to Europe, then came back. And one of the reasons he dominated for so many years with the Lakers was that in the European League, the rims are 15 feet high. So he had that leaping ability. I mean, do you know the extra effort it takes to go another 5 feet in the air and then slam a jammer? Seriously, if you are a young player and you want to be in the NBA, your best bet is to go to Europe for at least 5 years, because you'll come back and your legs will be 5 times the size from jumping another 5 feet in the air. You'll dominate and you'll get rich. That's what that song's all about. Won't Let Go. All right, now how many times do we in this? It's the best songs of rappers, musicians, country singers, German Christian rap, whatever it is. Any song talks about a human condition that we can all relate to, and here we are in the song "Won't Let Go." How many times are we in situations where we won't let go? I mean, she's given you a restraining order. She's moved to another city. She's moved to another country. She's changed her name, and she's in the witness protection program. But for some reason, guys get it in their head that if I just persist, if I just send her chocolates on the hour, every hour through Postmates or through Grubhub or through DoorDash, and I send her food and I send her gifts, diamonds. Listen, she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Okay? So she wants to end it. Let her decision stand. There's plenty of fish in the sea. You need to move on. And that song is that advice to you, talking to guys specifically. I'm sure there's some women, but guys are, a little thick in the head. All right. She's the one. She's the one. See, that's the thing. Once you let go of the bad relationship that didn't work, and maybe it wasn't bad, it just, things change. Life moves on. You're not the same person when you were 18. Let me restate that. You're not the same person now that you were when you were 18. So things change. Neither was she. So sometimes it's not a matter of fault. It's a matter of life. And things change. But that clears the decks for a new relationship. And it might be the one. And that's the time you say, she's the one. That's what that track's all about. Next is Ryder. Again, remember, he was doing the motocross when he was in high school. Ring the doorbell, jump on the bike. See? Just like that. Now, Ryder is when he's older, okay, and they still have the motorcycles. You don't sell those motorcycles, man. You hold on to them, you keep them tuned, you keep the oil changed, so that when you're older and you get that itch to jump on the bike, it's there in the garage. And that's, remember when you were young and you had some activities, maybe you skateboarded, and then you were older and you didn't have a skateboard. You say, well, how come I don't skateboard anymore? I know I'm 67, but I can still skateboard. It's the same thing. So hold on to those things. Hold on to that skateboard, because you're going to want to jump on it when you're 67, just like he did in this song where he jumped on his old motorcycle. But I would just say make sure your insurance is very good if you're going to jump on a skateboard at the age of 67. 22 is make believe. Now, make believe is a story about you have to, when you're trying to reach certain heights in life, you have to make believe you're already there. But that's not practical in the world. People will say you're dreaming. Yeah, you're dreaming. What? You're just supposed to lead an average life and that's it, and not even try? Yeah, well, don't try. You could be hurt. Yeah, you could be. Not only could you be, you will be. Make believe is advice to the youngsters that are dreaming and scheming and trying to get ahead in life to make a difference, so they can look back in their life and they go, I gave it a shot. Rather than sitting there wallowing in their averageness at the Waffle House, sipping on coffee and saying, I didn't do nothing. So I didn't do, hey, Sam, you know what I just realized now that I'm 77 years old? I didn't do nothing. Well, hey, listen, Sam, I didn't do nothing either. I didn't do well, here we are. Both of us didn't do nothing, but hey, we're still here and we're still doing nothing. So make believe is about having dreams and going for them no matter the result. Guys, that's it. It's another great album from Juice, Death Race for Love. Again, it's the follow-up to his Billboard number six album that hit number 6. That had Lucid Dreams. That was Goodbye and Good Riddance from 2018. So can you imagine? You come out with an album, Goodbye and Good Riddance, in 2018. Okay, that hits number 6, and here we are in 2019 with Death Race for Love. I mean, it's an amazing productivity. Yeah, he's young. Crank him out, man. Crank out the hits, make that money, and you're gonna love it. Check out Juice World and his new album Death Race for Love. I think you're gonna enjoy it.